Season 55, War number 5. Today we've matched up against ZA, or something like that, and the bans are Corvus, Count Nefaria, Null, Silk, and Terrax. And my team today is Scream, Luke Cage, and Arcade. And it's a very, very interesting team. Obviously, you don't see Arcade on War teams basically ever. And Scream is also a champion I have not brought to War, but I ranked her specifically for this exact reason, and that is a Terrax ban and a Viv Vision on Node 21, especially since we have not had a lot of success with Gladiator there. I know he does it, but it is still a tricky fight even with Gladiator, so I'm trying to avoid sending Gladiator, and that is why Scream is on my team. But enough of that, we're going to get to that fight later in the video, starting off against this Wong on Node 9 with Luke Cage. Luke is, he's whitelisted this season. He's already extremely good with the decay tactic, so we're just going to be abusing that tactic versus this Wong here. The damage over time debuffs from Hazard Shift are not doing any damage to us because we have so many debuffs up. And then once we get these concussions up from Luke's SP2, Wong really can't do anything. If he charges his heavy, he's not going to gain power gain or unstoppable. We're going to basically shut off the debuffs from applying to me altogether, which is going to help with bypassing inequity. It's not going to help me dex the SP2, unfortunately, where I mess it up, but Luke's Sig ability will save me from that, where I do get an indestructible for the hit that I just took. And then Wong goes down in just a second after the SP1 of mine, in just under a minute. So now we are fighting Weapon X on Node 18 with Arcade. This is Hazard Shift, Poison, and Incinerate, and if we use Arcade's first two pre-fights, he is going to gain Incinerate and Poison immunity, so the only thing left to worry about is just a Weapon X. There is Power Focus 1, which is kind of helpful for us because the easiest way to get openings versus an unblockable Weapon X is just by baiting and countering his specials. So if he's going to have more special ones for us to bait and counter, it's going to make the fight easier. So I'm going to start by spamming heavies, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want to get to 1 bar of power before he goes into Berserk, and I want to have my max Arcade tokens for an auto block with a Steadfast if I need to. Weapon X is unblockable here. However, I do get a Steadfast when I would auto-block, so that doesn't matter, so I would auto-block regardless. Problem is, when you're playing auto-block style characters and you drop a special animation when the defender is dashing in, if that medium of theirs whiffs into your special attack, the game will still think you auto-blocked. So you saw me lose my tokens there to auto-block or not auto-block the attack. That happens with pretty much every auto-blocker. It's just the game thinks that you triggered an auto block when their medium whiffs into your special like that, so I lost my tokens there. But the only thing we really needed to worry about was getting 8 tokens to finish the fight with, so I have enough pre-fights for my mini later. And yeah, the fight went down pretty successfully. So now we're using Scream versus this Viv Vision on Node 21. I'm using my 6-star Sig 200 Scream. I cannot send a 7-star unduped or low Sig to this fight because you need Scream's Sig ability to make this fight work. What Scream's Sig ability does is it allows you to reduce the ability accuracy of armor ups by a maximum of 25% per madness. So that is 100% ability accuracy reduction at the start of the fight if your Scream is max Sig. However, Viv increases her own ability accuracy, meaning some armors are going to slip through. That is why Gladiator is not the perfect counter to this fight, because he cannot remove every armor at the start of the fight if he's awakened like he would versus most other champions. It still works, but it is definitely a lot riskier than I'd like, so we're using Scream, who can just use her heavy attack at the start of the fight to auto block, place some armor breaks, and remove all of the armors at the start of the fight like you saw me do. And at that point, it's just punching Viv to death with basic attacks because she's power draining me so much I'm not really going to get to my SP2 very easily. So yeah, that's my only Scream fight this war, but we have rank 3s that I normally would send to mini bosses that require Scream. It's just, I need that SIG 200 version for her to go to Path 3, and I am the only SIG 200 Scream player, so that is why I took that fight. Now we're fighting this Mangog on node 30, who does not benefit from any of the nodes here. He is just here to path split, and Luke Cage kind of just terrorizes him. We just want to get to the SP2. It's going to place a concussion. What the concussion will do is it will prevent Mangog from gaining his unstoppable and all those things that he gets when he goes into enrage. He is going to still gain his hatred charges. Those are not affected by ability accuracy reduction, but even before he hits 10 of them, he's basically going to be dead, because we go for this SP1 here, and the burst damage and the SP1 itself just finishes the job. So there we go. My path fights are done. We only have 2 minis this war, but they are pretty interesting. Maybe less so this one. This is just a Chavez on node 41. She doesn't really do anything on this node with Luke whitelist, because Luke just kind of hard counters it. There is some interesting interaction in this fight that is worth talking about once we get there. But I want to get to my SP2 as soon as I can, place the double concussion, and then hopefully we're going to be chilling. She throws a random heavy, of course, but when you wither Chavez, she loses her dimension, so we kind of just get that from the tactic, and it's really easy. So here, what's going to happen though is we're going to actually shut off the tactic from placing what would be placebos and turning them into what would be withers. Meaning, I'm not going to get any more withers for when she just spams literally 3 heavies in a row. Like, I cannot get her to stop dropping them, and normally my Chavez AI is not ever this bad. Like, normally I do not fight a Chavez and she just does that kind of thing. I don't know if I'm lucky or what, but that's some of the worst Chavez AI I've ever seen. Luckily, in this war tactic, it does not matter how badly Chavez AI is, because Decay turns off her damage reflect, and Withers can usually turn off dimensions altogether. It's just the concussion kind of messed that up. So last off, we're fighting Onslaught on node 43 with Arcade. I'm activating my power-up and Game Wizard pre-fights for immunities to Shock and Incinerate. So it's literally just an Onslaught, kind of like how that Weapon X was. Once you completely turn off Hazard Shift, it's just basically fighting the Defender. This Defender also has Double Edge and Recoil on. No Liquid Courage, but Double Edge and Recoil. So whenever he drops a special, he's going to lose a little bit of health at the end of the attack, which does, help us out a little bit, but on the one hand, it does increase how hard Onslaught's gonna hit me if I do get caught somehow. So that is a downside. However, when you're using Arcade versus Onslaught, this is what you want to do. You want to drop SP1s into his block, and then you just place the cloud. Onslaught's going to be sitting in that cloud. You have an auto block that we just used right there because his AI sucked. Just keep dropping them into your block. Depending on the spacing, usually he can't counter you. I think right there he probably could have, but on the first special one, he definitely could not have. So the poisons are just ticking him down so much. I'm going to bait an SP2 here. He doesn't feel like throwing it, but that's fine because I know my poisons are going to finish the job. Drop an SP1 into the block, and because the animation is so long, he's just sitting there melting away from the poison. And that is Arcade beating up node 43 Onslaught. Is that a matchup I suggest you assign? Probably not, but it's a matchup that I knew I could handle. And I'm not even telling you that's something you should assign over a lot of other champions. It's just something I knew I could do, and I thought it would be a fun fight for you guys to see. And yeah, I knew I wasn't gonna die there. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.